morning. Thank you for joining today's first session, Tools, Tips, and Tricks to Prevent Escrow Fraud. My name is Brooke Lewis, Vice President of Sales and your host for this session. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He has worked in the escrow industry for the past 15 years, and in that time become a cyber fraud and banking expert. He has extensive experience in the areas of banking, escheatment, residential and commercial disbursements, and IT. There will be time with our speaker after his presentation, so please hold your questions until the end. Without further ado, I warmly welcome Jason Jones.
Thank you for joining, and it is a pleasure to talk with you today. My name is Jason Jones, and I'm the sales manager for PCN Network at First American. I have a background in escrow, banking, and IT, and have spent the last few years doing a deep dive into wire fraud specifically. Today, I will talk to you a little bit about fraud in the real estate industry. I do hope you find this information useful. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. Why is real estate an easy target for fraudsters? There are a large number of parties in a given transaction. This ranges from the lender to multiple real estate agents, title companies, settlement agents, buyers, sellers, brokers, lenders, attorneys. The list can go on and on. Any one of those parties may be a target for a fraudster, and it could impact your closing and escrow funds. You have to be able to count on each party performing the necessary security measures, and that still may not be enough in some cases. Remember the old saying, one weak link can break the chain. Another reason is there is an increased use of digital technology. Some examples of this technology are artificial intelligence, robotics, 5G, big data, and blockchain. These digital technologies have been amazing for efficiencies and convenience, especially given the current need for folks to work at home during the pandemic. However, it also opens up the possibility for cyber fraudsters to infiltrate this digital technology, and as more of the business moves in that direction, that exposure will continue to increase. Finally, many agents have multiple offices. This can create just enough confusion for a fraudster to impact your closings, infiltrating communication between the offices or disguising themselves as someone in the transaction. So based on those factors, fraudsters know that real estate is a goldmine for them, and believe me, their sights are set on the real estate industry. I would guess that at least one or two of the folks on this call have been the victim of at least some type of cyber fraud. So what are the cyber criminals gaining from targeting the real estate sector? Here are some of the aspects that fraudsters find appealing. Fraudsters understand that significant amounts of NPPI and escrow funds are handled, received, and dispersed by title and settlement companies. While the amount of the funds being wired is certainly significant, the size of the agent should also be a consideration. A $100,000 wire fraud loss for a large national agent won't have the same impact operationally as that same wire loss on an agent doing 20 closings a month. That type of loss could put them out of business. Fraud is on the rise. The FBI has noted that wire fraud has increased almost 500% in the past 12 months. I can make a pretty educated guess that this number is even higher since the COVID-19 situation and everyone having to work remotely. Title agents, realtors, and banks have been sued by consumers and vendors for damages caused by incidents of fraud. And I'll have an example of that specific issue a little bit later on. Resolving claims, even if done through insurance coverage, impacts agents in higher deductibles and other costs. Reputational damage is also deeply concerning. Reputation management is more important than ever as it can attract new clients or give those clients pause in choosing their title agent. So in looking at these points, it isn't just the money that fraudsters can steal from you. They can ruin your reputation with your customers and lenders. It can cost you money over time in claims and deductible increases, and it can drag you into a lawsuit where you may not have done anything wrong on your end. But what are you as a title agent trying to protect? The company information, escrow funds, and your reputation, as I mentioned in the previous slide. Consumer NPPI, and I'll explain what that is in just a few minutes. And escrow and mortgage disbursement funds. These are the big dollar wires that, if stolen, can ruin an agency. What is NPPI? And I've mentioned it a couple of times already in my presentation. NPPI stands for non-public personal information, and it is defined as personally identifiable data about a customer which is otherwise unavailable to the general public. Non-public personal information includes either the first name or first initial of an individual, along with the last name, coupled with any of the items listed here. The individual's social security number, their driver's license number, their state-issued ID number, their credit or debit card number, and any other financial account numbers. So just to repeat, NPPI is any data that contains a person's first name or first initial, last name, and any of the items listed here on this slide. If a fraudster were to obtain this sensitive information, then they could potentially steal that individual's digital identity. As I've mentioned throughout this presentation, escrow funds are always at risk. So what funds are we specifically talking about? Title and settlement companies handle substantial amounts of consumer funds, and these types of funds include seller proceeds, buyer cash to close, payoff funds, loan funds, and funds for closing related expenses. Fraudsters are very aware of the different types of funds flowing through your escrow accounts. This is the main reason that the target is squarely on the back of the real estate industry. Now here are some statistics to show you the real threat that we are facing. Wire fraud is the fastest growing real estate cybercrime. Recorded losses due to wire fraud in 2017, 969 million. By 2018, 5.3 billion. That was an increase of 480%. And that number's continuing to rise. A recent report from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center revealed that frequency and financial impact of cybercrime are continuing to increase at alarming rates, due in part to fraudsters capitalize on these opportunities that the COVID-19 pandemic has generated. 76% of title agents reported wire fraud attempts, stayed the same or increased in 2020 or even higher in 2021. In 2020, the IC3 received over 19,000 business email compromise complaints with adjusted losses of almost $2 billion. Something particularly alarming, 75% of unrecoverable funds were sent by an employee, and 71% of those stolen funds were not fully recovered. Here's some additional types of cyber fraud. The first is called account takeover, or ATO. Account takeover is a form of identity theft in which a fraudster gains access to unique details of a user's online accounts. By posing as the real customer, fraudsters can change account details, make purchases, withdraw funds, and even leverage stolen information to access other accounts. This type of fraud works for a couple of reasons. First, data about consumers, realtors, title agents, and others have already been compromised and are available for sale. Secondly, banks often do not perform sufficient due diligence and cannot and do not adequately detect false documents when opening accounts. Account takeover fraud resulted in $6.8 billion in losses in 2019 alone. The second type of cyber fraud listed is identity theft. Identity theft refers to all types of cybercrime in which someone wrongfully obtains and uses another person's personal data in some way that involves fraud or deception, typically for economic gain. This is a popular type of fraud that works for several reasons. Due to data leaks and massive breaches, billions of compromised credentials are traded and sold on the dark web and internet. Criminals know that users commonly reuse the same password across different services. Even with pervasive threats from fraudsters, many people still share passwords across different accounts. And fraudsters gain access to account credentials and test the stolen credentials against the individual's bank accounts, credit cards, etc. So what is business email compromise? BEC is a cyber attack involving the hacking, spoofing, or impersonation of a business email address. The victim of a BEC attack receives an email that appears to come from a trusted business. So how do you defend yourself against business email compromise? Educate employees and raise awareness of how BEC scams work. This can be accomplished by implementing certain steps. Training users to be aware of what malicious emails and phishing attacks look like. This is an important step in increasing an organization's protection against business email compromise. Security awareness training can teach users what phishing emails look like and instill crucial security behaviors like never replying to suspicious emails and reporting them immediately to IT departments. Carefully scrutinize all emails. There are many ways to avoid being a victim of spam messages, but the most important thing is to be cautious in opening your emails. Always make sure that the emails that you open are from trusted sources and do not look malicious. It is common to receive information or emails that contain malicious attachments or dubious messages. Be suspicious of irregular emails sent by high-level executives, as they are often used to trick employees into acting with urgency. CEO fraud email scams impersonate individuals with access to financial information or other sensitive data into making wire transfers or divulging bank account numbers, credit card information, passwords, and other highly valuable data via email. These CEO fraud scams often target or impersonate CEOs or CFOs or other C-level executives. Validate any changes in payment instructions using third-party verification. Third-party verification is a process of getting an independent party to confirm that the customer is actually requesting a change or ordering a new service or product. By putting the customer on the phone, usually via transfer or three-way call, the third-party verification provider asks the customer for his or her identity, that he or she is an authorized decision maker, and to confirm the order. Verify requests. Confirm requests for fund transfers when using phone verification as part of two-factor authentication. Use known familiar numbers, not the details provided in email requests. Emails can often contain altered or falsified information. And establish communication protocols when the customer is first engaged. Include wire fraud notice on your email signature. Use a transaction management platform or secure email to communicate with customers and inform them of such. Never send wiring instructions of any personal or financial information via email. And then verify the wiring instructions with a phone number that was independently obtained. Learning how to spot phishing emails is something that all members of your company should be trained on. It really is the first line of defense against cybercrime. There are generally 4 emotions that you can watch for when deciding if an email is a phishing attempt. Greed is an easily identifiable flag when looking at a possible phishing attempt. Phishing emails often list a financial reward or may ask a user to click a link and enter login information. If an email offers something that is too good to be true, then it most likely is. Fear is something that users pick up on as well. Scaring the recipient is a common tactic that phishing emails may use. Any emails that threaten the recipient with negative consequences or punishment should be treated with suspicion. Urgency. If an email provides a strict deadline for performing an action, that should raise red flags. Phishing emails will try to confuse and fluster the recipient by rushing them. And finally, curiosity. People are curious by nature, and phishing attempts take advantage of that fact by sending emails that promise to show you something unusual, exciting, or forbidden. I'm going to spend some time on tips to prevent wire fraud. Internal controls are the plans and/or programs implemented to safeguard your company's assets, ensure the integrity of its accounting records, and deter and detect fraud and theft. Segregation of duties is an important component of internal control that can reduce the risk of fraud from occurring. So to perform the internal review, implement review processes for your wires. Tell realtors they shouldn't be sending wiring instructions through email, and implement two-factor authentication. Create a log of all approved parties, including phone numbers, at the start of your transaction. You want to be suspicious of receiving calls from any number other than what is listed on this pre-created log. Use secure email. Avoid using free web-based email accounts for business communications. Private email accounts do not enforce the same level of security as a corporate email, and they are more susceptible to being hacked. As an example, Berkshire Hathaway in Washington won't provide E&O unless there is use of a company email. Get an agreement. Prior to closing, execute an agreement with the seller or borrower indicating the method of funds transfer, whether it be check or wire. Refinance borrowers are high risk. Remember, transactions that result in a large cash payment to a refi borrower or seller are highly susceptible to attacks. Call and confirm. Question and confirm by phone with approved parties any deviation to the funding agreement. Changes are not common and may indicate fraud. Confirm wiring instructions by phone with approved parties prior to sending. And confirm receipt of wired funds by phone with the intended recipient. Practice good cyber hygiene. You want to make sure you're using the right tools for cyber hygiene. Have you ever tried brushing your teeth without a toothbrush? Without the right tools for the job, maintaining personal hygiene would be a bit more difficult, if not impossible. The same is true for managing good cyber hygiene. Without the right products and tools, personal information you think is secure could, in fact, be at risk. Reputable antivirus and malware software, a network firewall, and password protection all help to protect personal data stored on your home or business computer. Taken together, these tools may help you feel confident about the security of your computer, laptop, smartphone, and other devices. Additionally, you should always make sure the security brand is a reputable source before installing anything on your computer or other devices. Be thorough, be accurate with cyber hygiene. Everyone is supposed to floss, right? But does everyone do it as much as the dentist recommends? Deleted or presumably irretrievable files in your computer require a different kind of flossing and demand special attention from time to time. For example, you may think that regularly emptying the trash can or recycle bin removes personal or sensitive data from the hard drive. That is not the case. To permanently delete files from your computer, you must use data wiping software. Whenever you introduce new software, add on hardware, or modify system files, you are at risk of losing personal data. Get in the habit of regularly cleaning out data you don't need and making sure to wipe it clean from the hard drive. Another area of security that requires your attention is password protection. Don't get lazy and skimp on creating complex, unique passwords for each account, using combinations of at least 12 letters, numbers, and special characters. Change your account passwords regularly, and you'll be on your way to better cyber hygiene in no time. Make cyber hygiene part of your routine. Learning to monitor your cybersecurity regularly can increase your chances of avoiding an online threat. But just like any habit you wish to make stick, it requires routine and repetition. Get started by setting an alarm or marking a calendar with dates to address a series of tasks. Things such as scanning for viruses with antivirus software, updating the operating systems of all your devices, checking for security patches, wiping the hard drive, and changing your passwords. Once you begin to get the hang of cyber hygiene, it will become second nature to you. Some key steps for good cyber hygiene. It's a general practice that can help keep you safe and secure online. But there are several best practices to ensure your cyber hygiene is the best it can be. Here are 9 essential steps. Install reputable antivirus and malware software. The first and maybe most important step is installing antivirus software. What is it designed to do? Antivirus software is a program or umbrella of programs that scans for and eradicates computer viruses and other malicious software or malware. It's a vital component of your overall cyber hygiene and its protection against security breaches, along with other threats. Specifically, antivirus software provides protection by performing key tasks, including pinpointing specific files for the detection of malicious software, scheduling and performing automatic scans, scanning either one particular file or your entire computer or flash drive, depending on your specific needs, erasing malicious codes and software, and confirming the health of your computer and other devices. Step 2, use network firewalls. Using a network firewall is another key habit for maintaining good cyber hygiene. Firewalls are a first line of defense in network security by preventing unauthorized users from accessing your websites, mail servers, and other sources of information that can be accessed from the web. Step 3, update software regularly. Update your apps, web browsers, and operating systems regularly to ensure you're working with the latest programs that have eliminated or patched possible glitches. Setting up this feature to update automatically will help ensure you have the latest protections. These updates are particularly important because they often include software patches. Software developers issue security patches whenever they discover software flaws that could let in viruses or hackers. Developers may not always alert you when a critical patch has been implemented because this might give hackers the heads up as well. Thus, regular updates will ensure these patches plug any holes in your software. Step 4, set strong passwords. Setting strong passwords for all of your devices is essential. The password should be unique and complex, containing at least 12 characters, along with number symbols in capital and lowercase letters. Changing your passwords regularly and never sharing or reusing the same password will help prevent hackers from figuring them out. Additional device controls are firmware passwords. These are hardware passwords that help prevent others from using your computer. While disk encryption prevents cyber thieves from accessing information stored in your device, firmware passwords protect your hardware by preventing your machine from being rebooted or reset without your password. Step 5, use multi-factor authentication. Two-factor or multi-factor authentication is a best practice that offers an additional layer of protection. Two-factor authentication usually requires you to submit your password and username, along with, say, a unique code that is sent to your cell phone. This may be all that is needed for some systems, but multi-factor authentication adds additional layers of security with the use of biometrics, like facial or fingerprint recognition, to make it harder for hackers to gain access to your device and personal information. Step 6, employ device encryption. While most companies automatically have data encryption services and processes in place, you also may want to encrypt your devices and other media that contain sensitive data, including laptops, tablets, smartphones, removable drives, backup tapes, and cloud storage. In fact, many devices use encryption as the default for data stored on smartphones. Some apps are using end-to-end encryption, and other services encrypt data on your devices and back them up in the cloud. Another option is to use an encrypted USB memory stick for protecting sensitive data. Step 7, back up regularly. It's also smart to keep your file secure by backing up important files online on an external hard drive or in the cloud. This can help protect many types of data loss, especially if hackers gain access to one of your devices. Step 8, keep your hard drive clean. If you're selling your laptop, tablet, or smartphone, it's important to ensure your personal or sensitive information doesn't get passed along as well. If your device is hacked, a clean hard drive means less information that's accessed. But merely deleting files or data may not be enough. Part of good cyber hygiene is reformatting and wiping your hard drive clean. For example, if you want to sell your computer and have used it for online banking, you'll want to consider disk wiping to remove software and data from your hard drive. Step 9, secure your router. Don't forget to protect your wireless network. This involves turning off and updating the default name and password the router came with from the manufacturer, turning off remote management, and logging out as the administrator once it's set up. Also, make sure your router offers WPA2 or WPA3 encryption to maintain the highest level of privacy of information sent via your network. Remember, it's smart to practice good cyber hygiene habits. If you set up your computer and other devices with reputable antivirus programs, update them regularly, create strong passwords, and keep everything clean, you'll be on your way to creating cyber habits that may help keep you safe and secure online. Slow down. Stay in control. A slow, confirmed closing is still acceptable. Criminals often create false urgency to aid them in making title companies not follow your procedures. Slow down and do not rush through those procedures. If you suspect fraud, act immediately. Contact the FBI, your bank, and appropriate authorities. For practical guidance to protect your business from emerging wire fraud and social engineering scams, you want to understand your role in safeguarding customer information and the applicable legal requirements under federal and state laws and regulations. Avoid using free email services and be aware of anyone in your transaction using those free email services. Let clients know in person when you first meet, in subsequent correspondence, and in your email footers to question last-minute wire instruction changes and independently validate the instruction knowing that this is going to be an increasing risk vector. Ensure that all parties facilitating a real estate closings do their part to safeguard customer information. Be aware of the new tactics employed by fraudsters and always independently validate any requests for or changes to wire transfers. And then choose vendors who have a proven compliance posture. It can be a SOC type security assessment, also best practice certification, or independent security certification, as you may be deemed responsible for the acts and omissions of your sub-vendors. So if you happen to be the victim of wire fraud, you do want to complete the ALTA Rapid Response Plan for wire fraud incidents, and those steps are listed below. Alert company management. Contact your bank and let them know the transfer you made was fraudulent, and you need to request a swift recall on that wire. You must have all the information available regarding the wire funds transfer in front of you to properly initiate this request. You should also request your bank to contact the fraud department of the receiving bank immediately so they can freeze the funds in the recipient account. Report fraudulent wire transfers and attempts to law enforcement. Confirm the recall request was processed by the sending bank. Inform the parties to the transaction, the buyer, seller, real estate agents, etc., using known, trusted phone numbers for verbal verification. Review your incident response plan to determine if you need to update passwords, secure hardware, and review email logs to determine how and when email accounts are accessed. Consider contacting your insurance carriers and outside legal counsel. If funds were wired outside of the United States, hire an attorney in that country to help recover those funds. Document your response using a response worksheet. There is one available on the ALTA website, and assign each step to an appropriate person or entity. Track process through completion or resolution, and retain the response worksheet for future references and updates. And then file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, it's ic3.gov. Contact your local FBI field office and provide the IC3 complaint number. Keep in mind that the FBI is flooded with wire fraud complaints, and they are severely undermanned. If wire fraud is not reported within the first 48 hours, the chances of the funds being found are greatly reduced. You will need the below information to do so: the victim's name, address, telephone, and email, the financial transaction information, subject's name, address, telephone number, etc., specific details on how you were victimized. For business email compromise events, copy the email header, and then any other relevant information that is necessary to support the claim. Now here is an example of real-life wire fraud. The buyers of a home in Washington, D.C. were instructed by email to wire $1.57 million to the title company a month before their scheduled closing. The email appeared to come from the settlement coordinator at the title company working on the file and included new wiring instructions. They responded to the same email to verify the new wiring instructions. The hacker, posing as the settlement coordinator, confirmed those instructions. The buyers proceeded to wire the funds. At the closing, $1.57 million was requested by the settlement attorney. The buyers informed the attorney they had already sent it. With a month having passed, the fraudsters had already moved the funds out of that account. So now the buyers are out of the funds, and of course, what do they do next? They bring a lawsuit against nearly all parties in the transaction. The parties named as defendants in the lawsuit were both title companies, the settlement coordinator at the title company, the settlement attorney at the title company, as well as others. And the claims varied from violations of the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO Act, conversion, negligence, breach of contract, breach of implied covenant of good faith, breach of fiduciary duty, and legal malpractice. So you can see, if there is wire fraud in your closing, whether you are the responsible party or not, you may be involved in a lawsuit. If it doesn't cost you as far as the wire, it may cost you reputationally. But here are some more real-life examples of wire fraud. There was a payoff of almost $9 million wired to a fraudulent payoff account due to an email address being hacked and provided fraudulent instructions. Another example of business email compromise. You can see here, these are high dollar amounts, and it can cost many a title agent their business if they were to make this particular mistake. So it's very important to be protected. So here's more information on the popular double pay scheme. This can occur when at the table a closer provides a seller with a check for seller proceeds. That seller then leaves the closing and, using their cell phone, utilizes their bank's mobile app to remotely deposit that check into their account. The seller then comes back inside to the closer, requests a wire instead of a check, and according to them, their bank wants to put a hold on the check due to the amount deposited. Many an agent has found no harm in doing so and proceeded to wire the funds as requested. Little do they know until later that they are also being debited those funds via the originally deposited check. One of the most costly types of fraud occurs via misdirected payoffs. Due to the lender exposure and general size of the wires, this type of fraud can cripple a title agency. A real-life example of this fraud occurred recently when an attorney obtained a payoff letter for her seller. The attorney then sent the letter by e-fax to the title company. The title company did not validate and sent out $706,000 to a fraudulent account. The e-fax was hacked by a fraudster, payoff instructions were tampered with, causing the title company to wire to a fraudster. And this wound up causing the title company to close shop. Another real-life example occurred when a large lender in the U.S. had a breach of payoff letters. In that situation, what can you do? The customer service department would not verbally validate any instructions. You may also be at risk regarding canceled transactions. The situation is a buyer cancels a transaction and requests that the funds be returned to one of his/her other accounts. An example is earnest money deposit funds. The risk in this scenario is an agent being accused of returning money to the wrong person or becoming involved in an illegal activity such as money laundering. During this presentation, I provided you all with frightening statistics and examples of how fraudsters affect the real estate world today. Now some good news. If you want to take the extra step to protect your escrow funds, we do have a solution for you, and that solution is Safe Escrow. With Safe Escrow, you can safeguard your business with our processes and procedures and leverage the Safe Escrow secure disbursement platform and increase efficiency utilizing the Safe Escrow back office support with the enhanced protection by PCN network. So what exactly is Safe Escrow? Safe Escrow is a collaborative and transparent disbursement management service. Through the various statistics regarding wire fraud and escrow funds I've already discussed, I don't have to tell you that navigating these waters can be pretty scary. You really need a service like Safe Escrow to help protect you. And we do that by offering cybersecurity and fraud protection through our safe validation technology and payee authentication. Safe validation is a service we provide where we take your wiring instructions from your customers and verify the bank accounts listed actually belong to the correct payee. A good example of this is, as an agent, you obtain the seller's proceeds instructions. You provide those instructions to Safe Escrow. We will ping the bank that account is held at, and the bank will tell us who owns the account. Was it associated with fraud in the past? Was it open yesterday or 60 days ago? There are about 30 flags we may see if they pertain to that specific account, and each of those has varying risk factors associated with it. Our team at Safe Escrow is trained in adjudicating those factors to determine if it is safe to send that wire out or not. Also included with Safe Escrow is Positive Pay. This is a service that a lot of your banks offer today for a certain price. Positive Pay involves an account holder receiving an exception report from their bank showing all checks presented for deposit that debits that particular account. This allows the agent to see if any adjustments were made to that particular check, from adding any extra zeros to changing the actual payee name on the issued checks. You receive this service at no additional charge with Safe Escrow, and Safe Escrow takes care of the exception reporting, so the agent need not worry about spending time on that function. Safe Escrow is a permission-based platform that does ensure segregation of duties, and that is a way of saying that we do follow ALTA best practices. And then one great feature that Safe Escrow provides is the agent can print their checks literally from any location with a printer. The agent only needs to be able to access that printer and have our blank check stock with them. The checks are printed as PDF files with the account information and electronic signatures all printed on the face of the check. A microtoner printer is not required. So with this feature, an agent can have an offsite closing at another real estate agent's office, and as long as there's a printer and the agent has their check stock, the checks can be printed from right there. Some agents have actually been able to negotiate cheaper rates with mobile notaries using this service. The notary will have a portable printer in their car, so if that notary were to leave the agent's office with a check for a type of recording and something were to change later in the closing that affects that amount, the agent can simply email the new check to the notary and they can print it from wherever the notary is using their portable printer. This saves the notary from having to drive back to the agent's office to pick up the new check. The agent controls the disbursement of funds. Safe Escrow cannot disperse anything without the agent pushing a button in the Safe Escrow system allowing for that to take place. And then finally, Safe Escrow is a simple, secure, and flexible technology that is very easy to use. Not only do you receive that cybersecurity and wire fraud protection, you also receive a lot of other ancillary services with Safe Escrow as well. The way it works is Safe Escrow opens up a new account for an agent. The agent will not have to spend time or pay for daily and monthly three-way reconciliations or resolutions of exceptions regarding this bank account, as Safe Escrow will be responsible for performing that function. Safe Escrow will provide those reconciliations to each of your underwriters every month. We are underwriter agnostic, so we can accommodate this with any agent that happens to have multiple underwriters. A big area of defalcation in the real estate industry is dormant funds management. For any Safe Escrow file, we will manage those dormant funds for the agent. This helps protect the agent from internal errors, theft, and fraud. And then one of the most attractive functions we do for an agent is we perform post-funding reviews and resolve uncleared payments such as taxes, HOI, HOA, etc. A good example is if a homeowner's insurance check is issued at closing, if that check were to remain outstanding for 10 days, we do have a department that actually picks up the phone, calls that insurance carrier to find out why that check is still outstanding. This helps free time from an agent having to spend every afternoon following up on outstanding checks, and helps your customer avoid lapses in coverage. If checks do reach the point of being still dated, we will send out due diligence letters for the agent, and we can accommodate any long-term escrows where needed. The agent simply needs to put their anticipated release date into the system. When we reach that disbursement date, Safe Escrow will follow up with the agent to determine if it is okay to disperse those funds. If not, a new date will be requested and we will follow the same process. And then Safe Escrow does assist with state audits and their compliance requirements where needed. And for me, this is a big win for an agent, as I used to manage in a sheet department. For any Safe Escrow files, we will take care of the achievement process and filing, including state-required notices. That can be a monotonous process. So to be able to allow us to take care of that for an agent, I would imagine is a very helpful feature. So it is one flat fee per closed transaction. We will only take our fee when a file closes and disperses. If it cancels for whatever reason, we don't charge the agent anything. And our commercial pricing is based on the sales price of a transaction. I'd be happy to provide those fees for anyone interested. Included in the transactional charge is there are no bank accounts to maintain, manage, or reconcile, no wire fees at all. Depending on the relationship an agent has with their current bank, you may be currently charged $10 to $20 per incoming or outgoing wire. So if you have 3 wires in a particular file, you may already be paying almost as much in wire fees than you would be paying in Safe Escrow, and you wouldn't be getting all of the added security and features that Safe Escrow provides. The Safe Validation service is included in that flat fee. We don't charge anything for voided checks, stop payments, or reissuances, nothing for the post-funding follow-up and the outstanding items, and nothing for the status sheet management. So if you're looking for a solution that isn't a full escrow model, but you still want security around verifying outgoing wire instructions, we do have a new product available, and that product is our standalone Safe Validation service. Our Safe Validation service validates payee and payoff wiring instructions using proprietary technology. It's very user-friendly. When designing the product, we talked to several agents, incorporated their wants into the offering, and we have since received very high customer reviews. We do have a standalone portal that the majority of our agents are using. You can feel more secure knowing your outbound wires have been validated. Currently, we are successfully validating over 70% of the wire instructions that are pushed through our service. The service verifies the account and routing numbers belong to a valid and open United States bank account, and the account number is owned by the recipient of funds designated by the user through real-time authentication against bank records. What we are saying there is we're verifying that you're attempting to wire to a U.S. bank account, and that if John Doe is listed as your payee, John Doe actually does own that bank account. And we're not stopping there. We're also flagging any accounts that have been open within 60 days. You may not be aware that fraudsters oftentimes open bank accounts within several days of real estate closings. The fact that we identify those recent account openings provides a great level of comfort to you to let you know that further due diligence is required on those accounts. Also, we check to see if the account has been associated with fraud in the past. There are no suspicious links to click, minimal participation from your payees, and then our 70% validation successes does include most major banks. The most attractive thing about Safe Validation is the protection it provides, given the current state of wire fraud in the industry. Secondarily, I would argue the next most attractive thing is the flexibility it provides. It can be used on a case-to-case basis, available whenever you need it. There are no minimum requirements as far as volume of business to utilize the service. The only requirement is that you do have First American as an underwriter. And we have some agents that will send all their wiring instructions through to get the full protection that Safe Validation provides, while others will establish a threshold, some dollar amount, and anything over that dollar amount that will run through the system. whatever makes sense for your business. It is a proven service that our internal disbursements team uses daily. First American has been using Safe Validation for some time with great success, and now we've made it available for our agents and approved attorneys. Something that we are very excited about, and I would encourage anyone that has any questions to reach out. My contact info is listed here.